chest, not out of joy but out of confusion and fear. The cruel words of her foster mother echoed in her ears. Remember when you have to live a lavish life and let us do the same. Don't fall for that hell. You'll be my Ben's bride. This is just for the money. Use your beauty and innocence and capture that rich heart of his. One important thing, don't ever try to act smart because I'll tell them about your character and that you are already about to marry someone. But he rejected you because of how characterless you are. One could still feel the burning sensation of her harsh grip on her neck, her fingers clenched tightly in her lap, trembling. She hadn't even seen him properly yet. He was just a name, just a figure in the shadow of a deal made for her foster mother's benefit. The only thing she knew was what her foster mother told her, that they married her to him to take care of his little nephew. One was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't hear the door open. Then silently took steps forward, his ex-girlfriend's biting words rang in his mind. I won't marry you just to become that rascal's mother. His parents died for a reason and you should leave him too. Theon took a deep breath. I feel ashamed of myself for loving someone like you, Alexa. I wish I had seen your true colors long ago. I was a fool to waste 4 years of mine on you. Today onwards, your chapter is completely closed in my life. There was never you in my life. He shook his head and just as he looked up at Wine and took a step forward, Wine instinctively lifted her veil, her innocent eyes meeting his for the first time. The moment their gazes connected, the world seemed to freeze around them. Theon felt his breath catch in his throat. Her gaze quickly dropped, and she fidgeted her fingers, clearly nervous and uncertain. Theon walked closer. You're so innocent. One step backward, her back pressing against the wall. She pressed her lips together in a thin line. He stared at her face for a while and spoke. I know we didn't get married based on love, but our relationship is based on trust. He said softly, searching for her eyes, but one lowered her head further. Then held her neck and pulled her close, causing her to lift her face. Wine hissed the moment his fingers came in contact with her neck. Did I hurt you? She shook her head, looking away. Then held her by waist. Say something, I want to hear your voice. His face was merely inches away from hers. Don't come close, she barely whispered. Then laughed spontaneously and leaned closer. Their nose brushed, sending chills down her spine. I'm not moving away, you're my wife. He whispered, grazing the back of his hand. Wine bit her lips, looking down. With a tender smile, Theon stepped back. Release your breath, he mumbled and reached into his pocket, pulling out a neatly folded document. Here's a gift for you. I have named one of my apartments after you. Wine froze, her wide eyes staring at the papers in disbelief. Her foster mother's words echoed cruelly in her mind. Make him happy. Fulfill his desires with your body and he might gift you a house for us. These rich people have big hearts. She felt sick, her stomach churning violently. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at the papers. Does that mean she had to sell her dignity and the little self-respect left? No, I don't want it. I'm not an object to be bought. She whispered, throwing away the papers. Her body trembled. Then stared at her with wide eyes as confusion swelled in his mind. Wine, what are you talking about? Tears streamed down her cheeks as her foster mother's vicious manipulation overwhelmed her. He reached for her and pulled her in his arms, but she struggled in his hold, crying hysterically. I don't want this. She stopped, her words breaking apart in her panic. Before Theon could respond, her strength gave out and she went limp in his arms. He cradled her against him, staring at her tear-soaked face. Hands skipped. Wine stood as her eyes filtered open. The soft murmur of voices filled the room, and her gaze slowly focused on Mrs. Kim and Theon's sister sitting beside her. Wine, dear, how are you feeling? Mrs. Kim asked gently, reaching out to touch her hand. Wine blinked, the fog of her emotions from last night still swirling in her mind. She sat glancing between them. I'm fine. She forced a smile and lowered her head, feeling embarrassment and guilt rising in her chest. Why did you faint last night? Do you think Theon is that scary? I mean, you fainted on your wedding night after was standing by the doorway. One glanced at him, and for a moment their eyes met. She looked away with a flushed face and shook her head. "He's nice," she said, her voice hoarse. Ilaria grinned. "Nice, you say?" Ted shook his head with a small smile. One's blush deepened, her heart pounding in her chest. Ilaria leaned forward, her grin widening. "So he's nice. Do I sense a little crush developing on my brother already, or is it love at first sight?" One's fluster still amused her. "Don't tease my innocent wife too much." "I see, innocent wife. Well, this is very interesting. Don't scare her off." Mrs. King smacked her head, making her groan. "Mom, I'm a mother of two. You can't keep hitting me like this." She then turned back to Wine. "Wine, you should have seen the way Thane was last night, sitting by your bedside like a worried husband. It was adorable." "Okay, enough. Get out. She needs to rest." "Wine, don't mind her. You just got married and here you are already throwing me out." Mrs. King smacked her head again and stood. "Don't say you are a mother of two if you want to keep acting this way. Come with me and bring something for Wine to eat." Ilaria huffed and stomped out, followed by Mrs. Kim. He let out a sigh and came over to Wine. "Are you okay?" Wine nodded, ashamed of how she behaved last night. "Freshen up and eat something." He turned around to leave, but Wine's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist gently. "I'm sorry for last night. I don't know what happened to me," she mumbled, her eyes filling with tears that threatened to spill over. With a gentle smile, he reached down and patted her head. "It's okay, I didn't mind it." He caressed her hair. "Don't be so cruel to these innocent eyes. Don't let those tears fall." Wine's cheeks flushed beneath him softly. "If you keep blushing on these little things, it will make things difficult for me." She bit her lips, looking down at her lap when a baby's cry grabbed their attention. "Baby's crying." She looked at him. "Baekhyun. His name is Baekhyun. I'll go and see. You should freshen up and eat something," he said softly, and walked out. One stared at his retreating figure. Tears blurred her vision once more, her hands trembling as she thought about her stepmother. The cruel woman would come and speak ill of her character, poison these good people's mind, and all this warmth, this care and respect Thane and his family were showing her, it would turn into hate, into disgust. In their eyes she would be nothing more than a greedy and characterless woman. Few weeks later, after a few days of their wedding, Ilaria went back, while all this time Wine adjusted in the new environment and lifestyle. Thane and his family are so loving, caring, and kind that Wine felt small in front of them. The more time she spent with this little family, the more guilt weighed heavily on her chest. She do each and every word in the house, thinking this way she might make amends for the deception. Sometimes she tells herself to be brave and tells him what kind of person her foster mother is, and how she is using Wine and their relationship for money, but then the fear of getting hit by that cruel woman and her son takes over her, and what if she tells him all the lies about her character? The same she said to her ex-fiancé and broke their engagement the day before their wedding, after taking the bride's money. Ted has noticed her always lost in thoughts with a gloomy face. He asked her if something was bothering her, but she would brush it off. The Wine sat on the bed cradling little Baekhyun in her arms, gently kissing his forehead as tears stung her eyes. He was running fever, and since morning Wine was freaking out. She called the doctor home twice. The sound of the door opening startled her. She looked up to see him entering the room earlier than expected. His presence immediately brought a strange sense of comfort. "You're home early," she remarked, wiping her tears. The butler called, saying Baekhyun is running fever and you're freaking out, crying your eyes out. He said in a low tone, loosening his tie. I talked to the doctor and he said Baekhyun should be fine when he wakes up. It's just a seasonal fever. You shouldn't worry too much, he'll be fine. Thane said lazily, running his fingers through his hair. Anyway, where is Mom? Her friend's hospitalized. She went to see her. One said in a low tone, lying Baekhyun on the bed, and went to take out clothes for Thane. He held her arm gently. You don't have to do all these things, Wine. I don't like it. He murmured, staring deep into her eyes. and lifted her face. Then just do my work. Don't stand in the kitchen all day, mop floors and do laundry. We have a whole staff for that. I don't want to see you doing all these things. You stay till late at night for baking. Vance was flushed as he laid his face close, grazing his thumb against her lower lip. That's always you. I barely wake up at night, she said, flustered, and stepped back. Then let out a sigh. I'll go change. Can you make me a cup of coffee, please? A small smile appeared on her face as she nodded. Sure. She turned around but then held her arm and pulled her towards him. Smile often, your smile is beautiful. He kissed her temple and walked into the washroom while Vine stood frozen, touching her temple. The ringtone of her phone made her flinch. She swiftly grabbed her phone, not wanting to wake Becky, and walked out, saying her foster mother's number. Vine stood outside, and during the harsh words and threats from her foster mother, her demands grew louder and more vicious, wanting more money, calling her useless. After 10 minutes, Vine came into the bedroom with a heavy heart. Tim was lying beside Becky. His eyes were closed. She couldn't say if he was asleep or not. Slowly she approached the bed, hesitant at first, but something drew her closer. She set the cup of coffee down and knelt beside the bed, her gaze fixated on Theon's sleeping face. Without thinking, her hand moved on its own accord. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed a lock of his dark hair away from his forehead. Her heart pounded in her chest as she lightly traced her fingers over his features, his soft lashes, the glow of his nose, the bow of his lips, and the sharp line of his jaw. He looked so peaceful, so gentle in his sleep. How could someone be so angelic? Vine couldn't help but think. She gently trailed her fingers in his hair, staring at him without blinking. Then stared, his eyes fluttering open. Vine froze, her hand still lingering in his hair. For a moment their eyes met and Theon blinked. You're awake? She barely whispered and quickly moved back, her hand sitting on the bed. Theon smiled softly, his gaze still sleepy and warm. Were you watching me sleep? His eyes straight, his voice low and hoarse. Vine shook her head in agreement, but soon she shook in denial. No, I mean... She couldn't find the right words. Theon chuckled and laid his head on her lap, taking her off guard. I was just kissing you while you were sick and do anything without hesitation. He held her hand and placed it on his hair. Vine bit her lips, her face turned crimson till her neck. Then stared at her as she caressed his hair with trembling fingers. Your coffee is getting cold. She murmured and looked at him. Their eyes met and Vine couldn't look at him for more than a few seconds. It's okay. He held her other hand and placed it on his chest. Vine, you can tell me something is bothering you, or do you want something? Vine bit her lips, thinking how to ask for money, and closed her foster mother's mouth for a while. Then he hummed, bringing her hand to his lips. Vine remained silent. What's it? Nothing. Take out all the fear from your heart. I'm always here for you. She barely nodded while Theon closed his eyes and stared at his face. I wish it was this easy for me. Doing something and saying it are different things. The thought of Ben's belt and his mother's whip touching my skin drains away my blood. I can't take any more mental, emotional, and physical torture. They won't just let me escape. She thought and stared down at him. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to rest in your comforting embrace and forget all the worries and pain. She said inwardly and let out a sigh. Time skipped. With each passing day, Vine felt her feelings and emotion getting stronger for Theon. She thought aloud and finally decided to tell Theon everything, but Theon's business trip came up out of nowhere. So she decided to tell him after he returned. Today's day had been nothing short of a nightmare. Her foster mother's call had come out of nowhere and telling her to come home. Vine went there as per her guess. She was demanding money and threatening her. When Vine had finally found the courage to say no, it had spiraled into violence. Her foster mother had beaten her in a fit of rage, and then Ben had shown up drunk and aggressive. Now Vine sat on the floor in her bedroom, shaking Bacon in her arms as tears streamed down her face. She rocked the little boy gently, her heart heavy with fear and exhaustion. She shuddered at the memory. She had barely managed to defend herself, wounding Ben in the process before she escaped. But now, sitting there with Bacon sucking his thumb and playing with her ear, I was terrified. What if the police came for her? Bacon, she whispered, staring at his chubby face. Bacon giggled, slapping her on the face with his tiny, chubby hand. I don't want to leave you, Bacon. Please don't forget me if they take me away, okay? I'll always be your mom. I love you and thank you so much. Bacon began crying, seeing her. Wine hugged him tightly. She was too caught up in her fear to notice Tim's presence. Why would you leave us? Wine flinched, her body stiffening as she slowly turned to face him, her eyes wide with shock. She hadn't expected him to be back so soon. Then stood there looking down at her with furrowed brows. Before she could say anything, he gently took Bacon from her arms, cradling the boy. Tim and wiped at her tear-streaked face, trying to pull up herself together. Bacon went silent in Thane's embrace. Thane kissed his head before placing him onto the bed beside her and handing him a small teddy. Without a word, he crouched in front of Wine, his gaze locked on hers. What happened? Look at what you have done to your eyes. He said, cupping her face and wiping the tears gently. Without thinking, Wine threw her arms around him, clutching his shirt as if he were her lifeline. She buried her face into his chest. The sobs she tried to hold back now pouring out uncontrollably. Thane's arms instantly wrapped around her, pulling her into a protective embrace. Thane, I'm sorry for hiding the truth from you. She choked out between sobs. Stop crying first. He said, rubbing soothing circles on her back. After a while, Thane pulled away slightly, cupping her fists and tilting her head upward. Tell me, what's it? He said softly and kissed her eyes. Ben and his mother have always been abusing me since I was young. She sniffed, looking down. I was about to get married to someone else before our marriage. Ben and his mother are really greedy. They used me to take money from my ex-fiancé, and after taking the bride's money, they talked ill about my character to break the engagement the day before our wedding. She got me married to you because they want me to take money from you. I passed out on our wedding night because she had told me I should use my body and you'll give me a house. And coincidentally, you gifted me a house. I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to hide it from you, but the fear of getting beaten by them had taken over me. She held his hands and let out a sigh. I know it all. I did background research the day after our wedding. I wanted you to trust me and tell me by yourself. He pressed his forehead against hers. You did? He nodded, caressing her cheek with his thumb. Today I went there, she murmured. Then passed her a questioning gaze. She caught me asking for money. I went and refused to be used by her. She began hitting me while Ben also came drunk. I accidentally wanted Ben to defend myself and ran away from there. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Are you hurt? He worriedly asked, cupping her face and looking for any injuries. I'm fine. They just hit me on the back, not on face. Because she says if Ben does me or hits me on face, they won't get much benefits from me. She wanted me to get married to Ben after he divorced me. He clenched his fist, his knuckles turned white, while his ears turned red. Then will cops come looking for me? He embraced her in a hug. No, I'll make sure Ben and his mother rot in prison. He muttered through gritted teeth. I'm sorry, Tim. I had given her the money you gave me. I was scared that she might tell lies to you about me and you'll believe it. He kissed the top of her head. Don't be sorry, it was your money. You can do anything with it. I'm not to question you. He said and lifted her shirt. One gasped, feeling his cold fingers on her bare skin. What are you doing? She pulled away with flushed face. Seeing why did they hurt him? He pressed his smile and said in a serious tone, "My girl," pressing her front onto his chest. You shouldn't have gone without me. This whole area of your back is red. He said angrily while lifted down her shirt. I'm glad I came a week earlier. she smiled, holding his face, then let out a sigh. Don't smile at me like that when I'm angry. Why? Because I can't stay mad at you. He said and kissed the corner of her lips. I smiled shyly, lowering her kiss. Then groaned, pulling her close and pressing his forehead against hers. You're driving me insane, he whispered, his breath fanning her face. Saying you aren't mad at me anymore, are you? Did you forgive me? I'm a little mad because you went there without me. You don't have to apologize. I can understand you are under pressure and constant fear. She smiled, closing her eyes, feeling as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. When you told me about your past relationships, so I don't want to hide anything from you as well. She opened her eyes and looked at him. I had a girlfriend for past 4 years, but she refused to marry me and take care of baking. After thinking a lot, I agreed to marry you, but I didn't know you'd make me feel something different. I was scared, thinking I had given my everything to Alexa, but now I feel like all those years my feelings were far from love. I feel like I was introduced to love after seeing you. Her face turned crimson at the confession, then chuckled, staring at her face. Thank you for loving me, she mumbled. That's okay, but you're really giving me a hard time. We're getting all red like this. I lifted her chin to look at him, mind of seeing the oceans of emotions in his eyes. Then leaned and kissed her on the lips, making her shudder. Her body went stiff, but she didn't pull out. Instead, she found herself leaning in just the tiniest bit. Her lips responding to his, even though her heart was pounding wildly in her chest. Then smiled against her lips, clearly amused by her reaction. He could feel her nervousness, the way she trembled slightly beneath his touch. Just when he felt he was in underworld, Bacon's steady came in the air and hit Tim's head. With a groan, Tim pulled apart while the room was filled with Bacon's giggles. You little rascal. Van bit her lips and pressed her face against Tim's chest while Tim picked Bacon, who was throwing his arms in the air and trying to get the hold of Vine's hair. You can't be this shy, Vine, you're so adorable. He said, laughing and holding them both. I'm not shy, she said in a low tone while Bacon threw himself at her and began shaking her ear. He's so naughty. Vine pulled away and held Bacon. He's your nephew after all, she said with a smile and kissed Bacon's chubby cheeks. I also want it. They moved his face close to her. Vine thought for a while and leaned to place a quick kiss to his cheek, but Tim turned his